Inshallah, in this very short presentation, I want to draw your attention to what I consider the big mistake that practically everyone is making in their study of the Arabic language. It's severely hampering them and it's stopping them from achieving results in a very big way. And what that is that it's ignoring the fundamental nature of the Arabic language. And in a nutshell, here's what it is. The vast majority of meanings in Arabic do not come from words. I'll say that again. The vast majority, because it's so, nobody says this. Nobody says this, so it's worth repeating a couple of times. The vast majority of meanings in the Arabic language do not come from words. They come from vowels and patterns and grammatical structures. Vowels and patterns and grammatical structures. So what in other languages requires complete separate words to communicate, Arabic does it through vowels and patterns and grammatical structures. So what are the meanings that come from patterns? So I have a mind-blowing example that I'm going to take you to right now. And inshallah, I'll show you what looks like a single word, and it's communicating 7 meanings. And from those 7 meanings, it's really just one meaning that's coming from the dictionary. The other 6 meanings are not coming from the dictionary. The other 6 meanings are coming from knowing the mechanism that governs the conveyance of non-word meanings. So what's the big mistake? The big mistake is that people, they focus on memorizing long lists of vocabulary and just words without getting a big picture understanding of how the language works. So they're wasting precious time, and it's demotivating, and it's boring, and it's overwhelming, and they think that's the way to learn the language. So it's a logical constraint, and it's the thing that's holding them back. And all of that time that's being used on memorizing vocabulary, if they devoted it to learning how the language works in order to begin a reading text as soon as possible, then through the medium of that reading text, they would get the vocabulary anyways. All the vocabulary, they'll see it in context. They'll see those words. And truth be told, you don't need a lot of vocabulary in order to understand the Quran and appreciate the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed for me and you. You don't need a lot of vocabulary. So like the stories of the prophets, which is a series by Sheikh Abul Hasan Ali al-Nadwi, we do the first part and we do the second part, and through those 2 books, they have like hundreds and hundreds of words that the author, he quotes verses from the Quran, and he brings vocabulary that's Quranic vocabulary. That's the kind of vocabulary a student of knowledge would want to know. So vocabulary is not what it's all about. Vocabulary can wait. What we need to understand is that the majority of meanings in Arabic, they don't come from words anyways. They come from the vowels, the patterns, and the grammatical structures. So let's now throw it to the PowerPoint, and I'll continue speaking with you there. And then there's meanings that come from patterns, and this is verb related. And we talked about this earlier, that there's 28 letters in the alphabet, and you can see them there in the screen. The ba is the equivalent of a b, the ta is the equivalent of a t, the jim is the equivalent of a j, and like that you can run through the whole alphabet, and what you'll notice is that they're all consonants. Okay, and the vowels are there, but they're not in the alphabet. They're added on top and beneath the consonants to collectively give us the sounds of A, E, I, O, U. And the words are constructed by taking the letters and putting them into groups of 3. Every group of 3 has an associated meaning. So Nun, Sad, Ra, together, when they're combined, they give us the meaning of helping. Jim, Lam, and Sin, when those 3 letters are isolated, they give us the meaning of sitting. But the consonants on their own, they're not pronounceable. So if you take kaf, ta, and ba and try to pronounce it, you wouldn't be able to. Try to do it. Okay, you can, right? So we need vowels. So the vowels, they come to number 1, make the letters pronounceable, and number 2, they give you more meaning. More specifically, they give you the tense and the voice, and we'll see this, we'll highlight this on the next slide using our particular example, which is the Istansaroo example. So what you're seeing on the slide is, it looks like a single word, but it's actually a full sentence, and in English it translates to they sought help, and specific group of males. They, group of males, sought help. So how many meanings are there? Is it 3 meanings? Like the English people need 3 words to communicate it. They sought help, but the actual meanings are more than 3. It's a large number. Okay, so let's dissect this and let's dive in. So they sought help. So the first meaning there is the help. Where is that coming from? That's coming from the particularness of the 3 consonants used in the middle, Nun, Sad, and Ra. Because if I leave everything else the way it is, and I switch those 3 letters, and I put Ta, Ain, and Mim, which are the 3 letters of food, then the translation changes, and instead of they sought help, it becomes they sought food. What does it become? They sought food. Istat'amu. Notice how it rhymes. So clearly the help is coming from the particularness of the 3 consonants in the middle. The second meaning would be the notion of seeking, and that's coming from the sin and the ta at the front. Okay, because if I remove that sin and the ta and I say only nasaru, then the translation is they helped. So the they part stays the same, the help part's still there, and the seeking disappears. So where's that coming from? That's coming from the sin, the ta. And there's the hamza at the front, the I, it's not circled, and it's there to enable pronunciation. And for the sake of time, I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to speak a lot about that hamza. Next meaning, there's the past tense. Because what we have on the screen translates to they sought help. It could have been they are seeking help. It could have been they will seek help. But it's not. It's particularly they sought help. So where's this past tense coming from? The answer to that is that it's coming from not having the particular prefix that the present future verb requires. So the present future verb, which is the other one, not this one, the other one, has a particular requirement, and that is not being satisfied here. So the verb on the screen cannot be a present future tense verb because it doesn't have the letter at the front that verb needed to have. Now, what is that letter? Totally irrelevant for our purposes right now because we're not teaching these topics. We're highlighting comprehensiveness at the word level, right? So it's a letter that needed to be that the front is not there. And number two, the sad has a fatha, which is relevant because if the sad had a different vowel, then it would have been a command verb. Istansaroo means seek help when you're speaking to a group of males. Istansaroo means they sought help. Radically different translation. All that changed was a single vowel. Okay? And then the fourth meaning is the active voice, and that's coming from pure vowels. Okay, not just one vowel, but actually the combination of three vowels. Because what we have is Istansaroo, the translation is they sought help. If it was three other vowels, a different configuration, then everything else would be the same. The translation would become help was sought from them. Help was sought from them. And again, I don't need to tell you exactly what that configuration for the passive is. The point is that what we have is different from that one. It's different from that one. And the topic would be taught at a more appropriate time, right? Continuing forward, the next meanings are the masculine gender. Now we're moving to the they. So the they is not one meaning. It's actually three meanings because it's men. Because if it was women, I'd do it differently. I'd have a different way of doing it. And then it's plural. So in other words, it's a group of males. And not only that, but we're talking about them. So we're not saying you sought help when speaking to an audience, a group of males. We're not saying we, assuming that we're males, sought help, because there's other ways of doing those. You see, so this is masculine, this is plural, and this is third person. So count up all of those meanings. There's 7 meanings. Let's recap very quickly. Meaning number 1 was the help, and that's coming from the particularness of the nun sadra. Meaning number 2 was the notion of seeking, and that's coming from the sin and the ta at the front. Meaning number 3 was the past tense, and that's coming from the absence of the letter that needed to be there at the front in order to indicate present future as well as the fatha on the sad. And the fourth meaning was the active voice, and that's coming from pure vowels, because the passive would have a different configuration of vowels. And the meanings 5, 6, and 7 are coming from the wow. Right? So they sought help. Now the English people, they tried to do it. Okay, and they couldn't do it. So what you're seeing here is mind-blowing. It's the height of comprehensiveness. And the English people, they tried to do it and they couldn't do it. And they needed 3 words. And even then, it wasn't precise because they, in English, does not distinguish between males and females, whereas our one is clearly males, because if it was females, I would have done it differently. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ meant when he said in the famous hadith, أُعْتِيتُ جَوَامِعَ الْكَلِمِ, I was given words of great comprehensive meaning. وَاخْتُصِرَ لِيَ الْكَلَامُ اخْتِصَارًا, and speech was made concise for me. So he's talking about his own God-given talent and his aptitude and his eloquence, because he was more eloquent than everyone. But he's also talking about the language, because the language has these things built into it. And when you know this, you end up learning more in a single day than other people learn in an entire year of study combined. Like that sister I talked about in the previous video, who said that because of that, I learned more in a single day than an entire year of Harvard, right? So if you like this style, and if you want to learn more about how the language works, and the elements that make it superior and different, and why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose it as the medium for his final message, then the most appropriate video would be this one here. So you can click on that video and continue with it. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.